Welcome everybody to the Laverne City Budget, 2015-2016. Glad to see a big crowd here on the budget. I think we're going to start at Capital Plan General Fund. Phyllis?
Thank you, Mayor. When we ended our budget workshop last week, we were discussing the amount of funds that we would allocate to capital expenses for the general fund. When we looked at our general fund balance, we knew that we had approximately $126,000 to share with all the departments, but of course, we had a lot more than that of requests, so we had to narrow it down. And what we did is we have narrowed it down to allowing $1,000 to be put into economic development for food because of the workshops. We do have meals included in those workshops sometimes, so we wanted to put some funding in there. We were able to reduce the IT insurance, health insurance line by $12,173 because we have an insurance correction in that department that we needed to make. We added 2 police officers for half a year at $63,775,000. We added $30,000 for the new web design. That was shared between 3 different funds. We did $30,000 in the general fund, $15,000 in the water sewer fund, and $5,000 in the stormwater fund. We also allocated $12,500 to the sonic wall. We allocated $54,000 to Parks and Rec for 1 truck and 1 van. And then we reduced, in order to accommodate all these expenses, we had to reduce the HR, professional services line item by $22,726. With that being said, we now have a balanced budget unless the board has any further discussion about this. And this is the original general fund worksheet. And you'll see that our general fund revenues are $17,787,570, and our expenses are now $17,787,570. Anybody have any questions?
Any questions?
You know, I have something to say. We talked a little bit about TDOT, $400,000 going there. We had $900,000 worth of needs, not wants, but we've shaved everything down. We had the ability to compromise, meet in the middle, and maybe meet some of these other needs that our various departments have, and I've not heard any discussion on why we're not even considering that. So I would like to know that, because again, we talked about at the end of November when you all were sworn in that we were going to move the city forward. I see us coming to an abrupt halt and in some ways going backwards. So just would like to know why we've not even considered, as that is not a required amount now, and we could offer the state something in good faith, $200,000 or even $300,000, but it would free up another $100,000. Why we have not even considered that as an option.
I think we just want to put this behind us, and the way to do that is to pay as much as possible, and we felt that the $400,000 would get us closer to getting that debt paid in a shorter period of time.
As we know, though, they may not like it over a 5-year period, but they could get it over a 5-year period, and the point is we don't even know the amount that is owed there right now. It would go a long way to the state to say, here, look, we're acting in good faith. But Phyllis, while I understand, you know, what you're saying, I would just like to have the board's response. Why we've not, again, we had our departments work very hard for however long it was to get their budgets together. We had a retreat to basically tell them, guys, thank you, and come back next year. We're not moving forward right now. So
How are we not moving forward?
Well, we've laid out a 5- and 10-year plan, and going back 5 years since I've been on the board. Now, this board may not agree with that 5- and 10-year plan, but we had a chief sit there and said, minimum, we're 20 police officers behind. We've not set any goals for, okay, we're doing 2 this year. I would be, perfectly fine if we had set a plan, okay, see if we can do 2 this year, we'll do 3 next year. And again, these things can be moved and up and down as the year goes on, but right now, no one has answers. None of the departments has answers. And in some cases, they've just stopped. They've not even asked because they know they're not getting it. But this city, to move forward, and as we grow, we're going to have to continue to give them resources, to give them manpower. I spoke about the codes. 5 years since I've been here, they've asked for a municipal codes officer. We have 40,000, close to 40,000 residents, and we have 1 codes officer. And guys, I know even in your 6 months, you got phone calls about codes. I get them all the time. Mayor, I'm sure you get them all the time. We have 1. There's so many needs here. So that's how we're not moving forward, Alderman Jones. We basically, we had $900,000, and it was a very conservative request from all the departments this year. And we've said, okay, we're going to do 160. I have to say this again, and guys, at the end of this, it's going to be what it's going to be. I mean, I don't see the writing on the wall here. But we have a city, we're moving forward, we're telling people we're going to cut your taxes, and we are. We're cutting them 2.5 cents. The amounts that I talked about last week, $150,000 home, they're getting a reduction in taxes of 78 cents a month. Now, certainly, again, as I said, a little bit goes a long way. If you have a $100,000 home, you're getting a 52-cent tax break a month. It doesn't make sense. We're basically saying, here, we're giving you a break. We haven't even got to water just yet, so I don't know where we are, because I know we spoke about some things there. But we asked for a rate study, and I'm perfectly fine. If they come back and say, let's lower it 80%, heck yeah, I don't want to pay any more than I have to either. But you know what? It's very reckless right now to say, let's just take $700,000 out. We don't even know what the outcome of this rate study is yet. So I could keep going, Alderman Jones. I really could. I dare to say, if you really ask our departments where they're at and saying, this is what we need. These aren't wants. These are needs. Nobody's asking for something that's extravagant here. They're just asking to basically have the tools and the resources to do their job. And that's my 2 cents. That's how we're going backwards.
Going back to the police department, we got 4 positions open that's waiting to be hired. Plus these other 2, if we hire them 4 this year, first part of this year, and put the 2 on the last part, that's going to be 6 that we don't have right now.
I think Chief told us we had 53 national averages, and again, we don't have to even agree that but it's going to get us in the ballpark. National averages say we're going to be somewhere between 81 and 100 right now with our population. We're at 53. We add those on, great. I don't know if you listen to the police radio at all, but I know they've been running crazy this last weekend. They had 2 and 3 sitting waiting. When they finished one, they had to run to another one. My thing is this: we're growing. We know we have retail. We know we're going to have a need. We know we've had some successes. Let's build on those. We have a way to do this and meet in the middle. We all said we could work together. Then let's work together. There's a way to do this.
How are we not working together? We've got officers coming in. If we had the money in the budget right now, we couldn't hire 56 new officers.
I didn't ask for 56.
To put us in there, to put us in the
numbers.
numbers.
Did not ask
can I
for
please
56.
just let me finish?
You sure can.
If we go ahead, you're saying that you're listening to these. I listen to these police officers, and I know that they're running hard, and I know it's a lot of work out there to do. I've been listening to it for the past 5 years with the last administration, and they were running hard, and there was a lot to do. We got to do this by baby steps. We can't make leaps and bounds and try to think that we're going to be able to budget and do everything all overnight. We're doing the best we can with what we've got.
We're offering a tax break, Alderman Jones.
2.5 cents.
Okay.
That's right. You just said 2.5%. I think last time we were at the budget, you invited the mayor to go out and take your money that you're saving and y'all go have a pizza. Do that. But that 2.5% to someone who doesn't want a pizza, they might want to go buy bubble gum. Whatever they want to do with it, we've got to show that we're putting forth an effort. Nothing's been done. 2.5 cents, it's something. At least they can see the horizon.
In all fairness, sir, this is what I'm going to say to you. I'm not going to go back and forth with you. I've sat up here for 5 years, and I'm not going to disrespect the city. And I'm not going to disrespect you while you're trying to do that to me. I never raised my voice once to you. What I said to you is how I felt.
Tom,
You-
look, I'm just saying, if you want me to, I mean, I can only speak the way that I speak. I've spoken like this for 50 years. I'm not going to turn my voice down when I'm talking to you. If I hurt your feelings by talking loud, I apologize.
Takes a lot more than that. But we have a job to do to our city.
We've got a
okay?
job to do, and that's what we're trying to do. We need to stop showboating. We've got our budget here in front of us. We know what we've got. We've talked about it for 3 consecutive meetings, and we know where we are with it.
No, you know where you're at, okay? You've not offered one.
Are these the same?
You-
Do you have the same thing that I've got?
What I have is a budget that was set out by the mayor that said, this is what I want to do. I understand politically we see things a little bit different. But what I'm trying to say is this. We have departments, and you talked about the last administration. You can dislike us, you can dislike what we did, but what we can do is this. You can't argue with success. You can't argue with the rebuild infrastructure. You can't argue with getting off of the state's complying with the state and the rules with our water and sewer. You can't argue with the success that we've had as far as bringing in retail. Unparalleled ever in the history of Laverne. So you can down us all that you want. What I'm trying to say
I'm
is...
not downing anyone, Tom.
What I'm trying to say to you, sir, and this is the last I'll say, and I promise I won't say any more to you tonight. You ask what we could do. We have a needs of maybe $900,000. We don't have, you're absolutely right. It's baby steps. But let's move forward. We have an ability. If we still want to do 2.5 cents, I'm all for it. Let's give them a break. Let's give the taxpayers a break. Let's continue working on the retail it's bringing in. It's going to eventually give them a break the rest of, as long as they live in Laverne. But we have something with TDOT here where we could give them $200,000. And yes, it's not what the exact amount, but it gives us another $200,000 to play with. That's all I said. Meet me in the middle there. There's $200,000 we can go back to these departments and say, here you go. Here's something. Prioritize. Maybe another codes officer, maybe another police officer. Garland has brand new equipment that is going to sit outside and it's going to depreciate quicker than what it would have had been under a shed. There's so many things we need, but we're just saying, maybe next year, maybe next year. That's all I'm saying to you. I offered something to you, to this board, in our first 2 and said, look, here is $200,000 potentially we could play with. That doesn't even have to be that number. You said you could work with me. Nobody has even come back and said, why don't we take $50,000 and get another police officer? Nobody's even answered it. So that's why I say we're not moving. We're not moving forward as a board, and we're certainly not moving forward as our city and as our departments right now. We basically hit the brakes and said, we hope it's better in a year or so. That's just my feelings. And now I will not say another word as far as this goes.
Any other discussion?
Sure, I'd like to say something. And the fact of the matter is, gentlemen, that we had $126,000 to work with and almost $1 million in requests. Not everyone can win this year. Not everyone can have what they want for their department. And I agree that none of them were wants, they were needs. I agree with that. But we do have a light at the end of the tunnel, and that is economic development. But in order for us to grow our economic development, to take the burden off of the taxpayers and put it on to shopping locally and spending your money here instead of in another town, we have to show a unified front. We have to be able to work together as a team. And that means that maybe we might not be able to buy things this year, Tom. And it might be that departments that are needing these items might have to wait a year. But we're slated to, we're looking at an income of possibly $400,000 in sales tax revenue alone from just one of the impending developments that are planning to come in this year. So we do have a plan that's going to help this, but fighting amongst ourselves is not going to make this city move forward
I don't
at
view
all.
it as fighting. I could get up today, and we have in the last 7 months. I've just agreed, walked away. I've said goodnight to y'all. I've walked away. I don't have a problem with you. I've been respectful. We don't have to agree right now. That's fine.
Right.
You said that at the end of the day, we have $140,000 left to hit our capital projects.
126.
Well, it's gone up and down, okay? And I guess after tonight, we'll see exactly where we're at. But let's say ballpark 126, okay? Again, that number can be moved up if we took $200,000 away from what we were going to give TDOT. And it would be 326, and it would give us a little bit more room. And you talked about a unified front. It would show everyone that we're willing to work, that we're willing to compromise, that we're willing to find some answers. I agree with you that it's going to be tight. Mm-hmm. And there are some things coming down the road. Trust me, I've worked my butt off for 5 years to get them here, okay? what I'm trying to say is it would have gone a long way then to say, we could have, but no one even answered that. I brought it up twice last
Okay.
meeting.
So if we only pay 200,000 towards that TDOT,
Mm-hmm.
keep the other 200,000, then how far is that going to go?
I don't know,
Because
but
honestly, we're still going to be $600,000 behind the 8 ball whenever it comes to paying for these things that the departments need.
what would have been good to me is then we would have said, okay, let's just think of this. We don't have to say it was something we were going to go with. But where could, if we prioritized in our list, where would that go? We may have said another police officer. We may have said something for the library that's asked for just small things, rugs, different things that she's needed for quite some time as well. Mm-hmm. We could have said, okay, why don't we met in the middle and said, oh, let's pay them $300,000. But we haven't done that. We're just supposed to come in and say, oh, here's the budget, here's what's been said, here's what's been laid out. I agree. I want to talk about, I have to say this, and I keep saying I'm not going to say any more, but talk about showboating. This is not showboating. This is what I believe. I got to say something. To me, this looks like we're getting ready for 2016. We're saying, hey, look, we cut your taxes. I'll go out and say right now, I won't run in 2016. I want to talk about showboating, but I want to do what's right for the city. Okay? I have no problem saying that to you. But we did not work together. It was basically, this was set in front of me and said, this is what we can do. I brought up some ideas. You did not have to agree with it. None of us did. But no one else said, hey, maybe we can free up a little capital here. That's all I'm trying to say.
Phyllis, do you mind going over the TDOT stuff a little bit? What is the total balance that's owed, or do we know, and how long do we have to pay it back?
The total balance right now is right at $1.7 million. We are questioning about 600, or is it 700? About 747. Yeah, $747,000 we're questioning because there's some line items in some of the project line items that we feel was an error, and Evan has provided all the documentation and all the information to the state to rectify that situation and correct that. However, they have not taken any action whatsoever on that to fix the problem because they've already paid the contractor. So at this point, we have basically filed all the claims that we can file with them. We're waiting on the state's attorney to give us some kind of response. In the meantime, we definitely know for sure that we're going to owe them somewhere in the ballpark of $900,000. They haven't given us a timeline, but when we talked to them last year, we said, how much time can you give us, 5-10 years? And they were like, no, we can't quite do that. Something a little less than 5 years would be more manageable. So, we're expecting, they keep sending us invoices saying, that this amount is due for all these projects and these overruns. So, at any time they could file a lawsuit and start suing us, start the procedures to demand the money all at once. So, I think if we make some kind of good faith effort that we want to pay a chunk of this at this time, then they'll be a little more lenient with us and maybe work with us on the issues with the potential lawsuit that we have against them. So that's,
Right.
and Kyle and anybody else, Bruce was at the meeting, so anybody else?
And Tom, you brought up about compromise. I did compromise. When I went into this budget to start with, I was looking at 5% reduction on taxes. After looking at the budget, 5% took about near $800,000. I did compromise. Every department got something. Got a 3% raise. We balanced the budget. We're getting 3% raise. We're lowering the taxes 2.5%, and we are moving forward. And I'm sorry that you don't feel that way, but it's just the old saying, you can't please everybody, and we still got to move forward.
Well, I appreciate the fact that was your compromise. I think 5 cents would have been equated for this, would equate to the city about $400,000. 2.5 cents equates to $200,000. And it's not necessarily what Tom feels, because at the end of the day, we're not the ones out there doing it. We're not the ones that are shorthanded or not having the equipment. But I tell you what we are on the receiving end of phone calls saying, Why isn't this fixed? Why isn't that fixed? So again, there are some areas still here, guys. That's all I'm trying to say. And we don't vote on the budget for another 2 weeks. There are some areas that we could shave and add a little bit more. And to answer your question, Melissa, quite frankly, if it's 50,000, if it's 80,000, if we find a little extra, it's something that we could tackle, add on to that 126 that you're talking to that may hit one of their needs. And that's all I'm saying. You know, we don't have to agree, but I would like to see us work together. And that's really where I'm at. I mean, there wasn't even a conversation about this for two meetings straight until I brought it up again. In good faith effort, and I agree, and Phyllis, you may not like the $200,000 number, but maybe it's 300, but there's 100,000 there that we could work with. We don't even have an amount. And to add to your story, we send them something and we're waiting on their lawyer to respond. And they were supposed to respond within 90 days and the state's lawyer did not respond. So this isn't being called in by any stretch, but we're doing this in lieu of all the needs of the department. So I'm ready to move on whenever you are. So.
Ain't no more questions. Phyllis, we'll move on to the next.
Okay. Next, I just want to briefly touch on the stormwater. We changed the stormwater budget by $15,000, and that was to add in the $15,000 for the web design. That was the only change that we made to stormwater. Anybody have any questions with that? If not, we can move forward onto the water sewer fund capital. Those will be the last couple of pages in your packet, starting with the first page says 413 water and sewer fund.
Be the 413.
413 water and sewer fund. When we ended our workshop the other night, we ended with approximately $2,094,000 in net results. From that number, what changes we have made is we reduced the rates by 2%, which reduced our profits by $658,248. We added in the web design, $15,000, so that reduced. These items will reduce our net results. We added in $240,000 for repair and maintenance services for the Hurricane Creek sewer rehab and the Fergus rehab SSES fees. We added in $50,000 for water treatment plant miscellaneous repairs, building repairs. We added $65,000 in for water valve exerciser and trailer. We added $6,000 in for a HO-RAM for the water department. We added $5,000 in for a meter for rental purposes. We added $30,000 in for a sewer service truck. We added in $100,000 for sewer backhoe, and we added in $25,000 for a water meter truck. As you know, when we started the capital, we started with $2.2 million. And we're actually was able to get that down to 1.196 in order to accommodate the rate reduction and still keep some capital in there. We did change the capital plan for 15-16 by down to 1.196. And that's reflected in your sheet there. In that capital plan, in order to get, we were started out with a $2.2 million request. What we did is we removed $500,000 for the Smyrna connection. After many discussions with several people, it was decided that that was not needed any longer. We reduced the, we took out $10,000 for the spec manual because we had decided to include that in the other professional services line item within the budget. We took out $40,000 and moved it over 1 year for the water radio telemetry. We moved over $120,000 for the sewer radio telemetry. And we removed the general rehab of $150,000 per year because after reviewing the budget, it was already included in the line item. We also reduced $200,000 out of the capital plan for 15-16. We removed it from 15-16 to 16-17 for the Lower East Hurricane Creek Interceptor. After reviewing that expense, it was decided that we wouldn't spend quite as much in 15-16, and we felt like we could move a couple of hundred of that over to 16-17. We removed $5,000 for the camera maintenance because that was already included in a line item. And then we added back $15,000 for the web design. So we took the $2.2 million capital plan for 15-16 down to 1.196.
Anybody have any questions on the capital?
We'd like to mention also that in our overall capital plan, we shifted some things around to different years, and there were some things that we have taken out of the capital plan now, and I'd like to discuss those a little bit. On our overall capital plan going out to 2022-2023, we had a budget of $18,177,480. We took out the $2.1 million for the core charges because when we were looking at that, it was several years down the road, and we knew that from previous experience with them that they would more than likely offer an installment plan program. So we felt like that, if we got to that point, we would try to work with them and do some type of installment plan instead of paying it out all at once. Or we could, and by the time we get to those years, it could be that we have enough money in fund balance to pay for it all at once. Of course, in that total plan, we took out that Smyrna connection. We took out $20,000 for the spec manual. That was over 2 years. We took out $1.5 million for the general rehab because we already had that built into our operating budget. We added $3.1 million for the 24-inch water line because we have now moved that out of our bond projects and replaced the bond projects with 2 other projects that are very important, and that's the Hurricane Creek Sewer Rehab and the Fergus Sewer Rehab project. Those are very important projects because of the guidance and the direction from Metro Water and Sewer in order to reduce our infiltration, and our flow that is going to Metro has been at some months above and beyond what we are required or what we have been allowed to send to them. So in order to fix some of these problems, we needed to move that project up a little bit further, a little bit closer. We, of course, we added in the $15,000 for the web design in our overall plan. And as I discussed, we talked about the 2 sewer projects. And then we also took out $40,000 for the camera truck repair each year because that is now built into our operating budget. So we took the overall capital plan from $18 million down to $15 million. Those are quite a few changes, but they were mainly just shifting things from one year to another or from one pool of money to another.
Any questions? Okay, Phyllis.
I just want to recap a little bit here. I do have a recap sheet in your packet, and it basically kind of summarizes what we're doing in the water sewer fund. We have operating revenue of $11,039,000. We have departmental expenses for the water treatment plant of 2.6, sewer maintenance for 4.2 million, water maintenance for around 1.8, water billing right at 800,000, debt service 826,000, for a total expenses for water and sewer fund of $10,289,000. We also have additional fees, revenue for the tap fees for $150. So that leaves us now with a net result of $900,017. And of that $917,000, that is actually going to be allocated to 2 projects that are on our capital plan. Those are the, let me get down here. That is the Madison Square sewer pump station and the Lower East Hurricane Creek sewer project of $600,000. So in looking at the bottom section of that recap sheet, we have a summary of our cash balances of right at $14 million. We anticipate about $5,070,000 in capital projects next year. Of course, you add back depreciation because that's not a cash outflow. And then we do reduce our cash by $1.2 million because of the principal debt service. And so we anticipate at the end of next year to have approximately $9.6 million in our water and sewer fund. And you can see, year over year, if you take out the bond money that we put in there, because after next year, we have, should pretty much have all that spent within a couple of $1 million. You can see that, from 11-12 to 15-16, that we're going to grow our fund balance. And then that's going to help us in the future years to manage projects that are coming up in the near future. And of that, on the projects, the $5,070,000, I've listed the projects out here at the very bottom of the sheet. You have a lot of different components to make up your water and sewer fund. We've got the capital, and we've got, the changes in the capital this year. We've got the changes in the overall capital. We've got the total capital that we're going to actually work on projects for next year. All of this is built into this summary sheet here, and it's what our number is as of right now.
Anybody got any questions, you need to ask Phyllis, because this is the last
Yes.
budget till we go to vote, so.
Yeah, we will have a workshop at our normal workshop. We can have discussion at our normal workshop, 30th.
April 30th, yeah.
April 30th. But for us to have any kind of real lengthy, detailed conversations about this tonight is the last night for that. That's all I have, Mayor.
That's all you got?
That's all I have.
Well, we're down to, anything else need to be discussed?
As it pertains to the budget.
Yes.
I had asked if we could have one of our recipients of the donation, Box 100. Do we have the, could you please step forward? I just needed a little clarification on the monies that were going. What was your last year's donation from the city was 15,000?
25.
It's 25
Was it
last year,
25?
sir.
Okay. Okay, I'm looking at 13, 14, so it was 25. Okay. Excuse me, I'm trying to catch back up on my notes here. There was a note in your letter that you sent to the mayor that said your donations from the former owner of the fire service will no longer be available. What is that? Who was that?
It was James Gafford, and he donated 1,000 to us.
Okay, so that was added into that. Okay, and the expansion of your volunteer hours, how much are they, approximately how much more is it expanded as far as your volunteer hours?
I don't have last year's in front of me, but I know that this year the total member hours added up to 10,591. This year we were asked to start helping at DUI checkpoints and start logging data for the highway grant, which frees up the lieutenant that previously had to watch the officers, the cars, and log this data, and it has to be correct, and it was just becoming impossible. So on those checkpoints, we may count 400 cars, and we have to count each car coming and going the entire time while it's running, plus count the pullovers and the people that have to do the field sobriety tests. So we were asked to include that, and we had quite a few last year. I think our total man hours for just police service was 240 volunteer hours.
Okay, on your the resume that you sent in, or your business plan that you sent in on it, for the Smyrna Air Show and traffic control, what exactly do y'all do on that?
We were asked to, the medians in the middle of Murfreesboro Road, we were asked to use our vehicles. We obviously don't have enough, so we used our own personal vehicles, but we had to block the medians. And residents exiting that show could not turn around and go back to Smyrna. They had to go all the way down to, do you remember where that ended? Parthenon. So we had to help block, there was not enough city vehicles, and block all those little medians that cut in between there.
Okay. Okay, the next question I had, I received calls that I couldn't answer, and I would, the storage of the Box 100 vehicles, on your annual report form, it shows your corporate or your headquarters to be 301 Bill Stewart. Is that correct? Bill Stewart Boulevard?
We have a P.O. box, but when you do business with anybody, they want a concrete address, so we were given permission by the fire chief to use their address.
Okay. All right. What arrangement was made as far as the vehicles parked here?
There was power to one of the poles back there so that we could put freezers and what have you in there, so we did not have to run for ice. We'd already have it there, and we were just given permission that they could be parked there.
Okay. In prepping for this, for tonight, I was attempting to look up some more information about your organization. You have to be a member to get onto your site as far as information about the Box 100?
On the website or the Facebook?
The Facebook.
No, I believe it's open.
Okay. I'll recheck it. I couldn't get in. It was showing me as restricted. And you do have a website?
We do. It's not so much used very much. More people are into, Facebook.
Yeah.
But we do have one. Yes, sir.
Okay. And you're Ms. Davison?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Ms. Davison. I have no further questions.
It seems like we're missing out on something, or something we're gonna discuss, I can't.
Can't think of anything, Bruce.
Seems like
I
it's
can't
awful
think of
quick.
anything. We basically talked about all the changes since the last workshop, so.
Tom, you got anything?
Of course. Last meeting, we spoke about Box 100. And 2 years ago, or excuse me, going into last fiscal year, we raised it to $25,000, the amount the city donated. Here's the thing, every bit of that $25,000 goes right back into one of our departments, whether it's fire, police, public works, parks and rec, whatever. We can cut off that, we can cut them down to $15,000, which is what I see again still in the amount we have budgeted. But again, I dare to say that it's going to cost the city more money when Chief Walker has to bring in additional policemen for traffic control, or the fire department has to do the same thing, or any of our departments. They're at every one of our city events. They're at every water, well, I don't say every, but the big water main breaks. Again, that 15,000, 10,000 we shave off may equate to 20, 25, 30,000 in overtime fees. So it's just something, again, that I think we look at, because while we may be trying to save some money here, we may be losing some money.
Yeah. Well, another thing, the rescue squad's coming on board as backup, so they'll be there anytime we need it. The fire department, police department, whatever. And in Sparta, they went, I think they've done away with all the so-called nonprofits, and wasn't able to do it this year because we had a short time, but I talked to Phyllis and Bruce, and I like for next year, we explore more of the way that Sparta goes, because we got a avenue we could save like $120,000 in nonprofit if we go out in the business and private sector and try to raise some money, but it's stuff that we got to get in line before we can do that, and hopefully we can get it in line for next year, but it might be the year after next. But
Just, I know you made that comment a couple times, but there's several things that I just want to, Laverne Boxing would be an example. Without a donation, my understanding, they may close up shop. You have Meals on Wheels that obviously we know we are a great help to many people with that. So just to say 100% across the board, guys go to fundraising, I don't know if that's an answer. But again, it's something maybe we'll take up next year. But I have to say this, I'm all for it. If Rescue Squad comes back and this weekend, if I'm not mistaken, they were called out because of, again, the desperate situation that we got in as a city. But Box 100 is not really, while they are a standalone organization, it is solely for the benefit of our departments. So we can slash it now or come back later and do a budget amendment or have to have an additional personnel or paid in an overtime line item. So again, we've got a couple weeks, guys, and I think there are some things that we can move one way or the other on. And I hope that we truly make a good faith effort across the board and try to find some answers that would be, as I said, and you may not agree with the way I said it, but move the city forward. Maybe a little quicker than what it seems right now, but that's it.
That being said, I'd like to talk about the water sewer fund real quick again. You know, in 2010, 2011, we were running around $5 million in that account. MTAS came in and let us know that that was much too little as far as our dollars go. Then we got in the situation in 2012 and 2013 budgets that we had $16 million in those funds. So they more than tripled. And then now we can, you know, see that we're closer to double what it was in 2010 and 2011. You know, so I mean, I think really the difference is dollars and cents, how to move this city forward. Because what I'm hearing from the residents is that, you know, they feel like the tax burden has been too great on them, and we're not giving them much back. I mean, 2.5% or 2% on this water sewer budget is not a huge decrease, as you discussed, but it is a good faith to our citizens. And if you know, consider the fact that the city is here solely to support our residents, we don't have any other function without the residents that live here in the community. We don't have a reason to have a city hall or any department within it or any volunteer organization in it. So we haven't given very much back to our residents, and they're just asking us, you know, to consider every line item carefully like they do in their own personal budgets. So to say that's not moving the city forward, though, is a little misleading, I think, because there's a lot of residents that would completely disagree.
Well, and please let me clarify, if you don't, because again, I'm the villain. I'm the one that sits down here and normally votes a little opposite, or maybe just philosophically a little bit different than what y'all are. First of all, you're absolutely right. I have no problem, again, if you heard what I said earlier, if this rate study comes back. And let's go back to August 2011. I was the alderman that called for a second rate study. If we could lower the taxes then, I would have, or lower the water sewer rates then, I would have done it in a heartbeat. They came back and said, no, you need to stick to the plan. Again, a plan created by people that are do it for a living and are certainly experts. Mm-hmm. As you talked about that 2.5 cents, you're right. To each person, it means nothing. And yeah, it's given a little bit back. It's given a little bit back. But collectively, it's $200,000 for the city. That 2% that you talk about in the water sewer fund, I think equates to $740,000 in water sewer. If I'm not, I think that
650 something.
Okay, well, I was close. So, mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, so 650,000. So individually, you're right. It means nothing. And again, if someone wants to buy bubble gum, if somebody wants to pool their money and get a pizza at the end of the year, the point that I was trying to make then and now is individually, it's not a whole lot. It's not, and so yes, let's offer it back. And if we can offer, like I said, 50% back, let's do it. But let's do it, and again, when you look at this and what you're comparing, it's not really fair just to compare balances then, because there's a whole lot that's happened in between with our capital projects and also getting off of the distressed utility list and so on. And if you remember that first rate study, had we kept going where we were, we would have been within 2 years negative 2.5 million, I believe it was.
Yes, and I also remember he gave us 3 options, and we chose the most aggressive option at that time to resolve it. And so this is just you know, showing our residents, the ones that pay my salary, your salary, and every department here's salary, that we're working on ways to, you know, we're increasing our economic development. We're, you know, looking at the budget or the water and going, okay, we can, you know, cut down a little bit on this because we have accomplished some of those capital project goals. So really, it's not a matter of moving backwards. It's just a matter of not running forward so quickly.
And all I'm saying is let's jog then. Let's find a middle there, and let's just not say, you know, if there's a means to find another 100,000, 50,000, 30,000, and we can better our, because again, while the people want that $7-8 savings at the end of the year that they may get, they also want to have paved roads. They also want to have adequate protection, fire and police. They want to be able to go to events and have quality parks. We know this. We're not arguing on this. We both agree. All I'm trying to say is, if we said we were going to work together, let's work together. And let's find ways to make this the best budget that we can and meet some of y'all's, hey, let's, Dennis, next year you said you want to go 2.5 cents again. Great, then let's work on building other revenue sources. Let's do some other things so we can do that and take the burden off our residents. That's what I'm saying. There is a way right now, but we haven't even looked at it. And that it is, to me, as one member of this board, it is problematic. When I bring something up, I don't take away from any of your knowledge, your intelligence, but I know I offer some too. And I say, guys, what about this? Here's 200,000, 100,000, and we could kick around. And it's just kind of like, well, put it under the rug and moved on, and it's not even discussed. I would feel better about it if I walked away and you all said, this is why. So.
Well, I can tell you from my perspective, we have a lot of debt in this city. And that TDOT debt, that was the largest budget line item that you had discussed cutting, not paying so much on that debt, which we don't know the final amount of, but we do know that they prefer it to be less than 5 to 10 years in payments. So if we're paying $400,000 on what we believe to be $900,000 and then what they believe to be
1.7
1.7, I mean, we're putting ourselves in a precarious situation for next year, having to pay a huge, lump sum at once, when we could make a dent in it this year and at least reduce some of that debt.
I appreciate the conversation, the little dialogue back and forth. Again, I just say, in lieu of what, though? State's not in the need that we are for police officers for that amount that's to be determined down the road. And we may have 3 to 5 years. So again, we're going to go without a police officer that we could add. Let's just say we met in the middle and said, okay, I don't like the 200,000 number. I was 50,000. Let's get a police officer. We work together. That's something that I don't think that we've done with this budget.
If they hire them 4 that's out, that's 4, and we put them 2 on, that's 6. That's 6. And then who knows? We always lowball the budget, sales tax and all, and maybe in January, February, maybe we got extra money and we can hire an extra one. That'd be even 7 more police officers.
You mind if I believe,
The 4 that we hire now, vacancies, it's not adding to the number of officers.
Yeah, that's right, they're vacancies,
So
yeah.
it's not adding more
But they're not
officers.
there. They're not there.
But it was just, right now, we're running maybe 46, 47
Yeah.
officers. With the 4 that we have to hire, that will put us back to just minimum where the guys will have to work 4, 5, 10-hour days. So it's not really adding any officers.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
I appreciate all he's saying. All I'm saying is we have 2 weeks. We could come up with something here, unless we're just going to stand our ground. And again, like I say, the writing on the wall. I know how y'all have voted. You all know how I voted. But we could make a difference here if we work together. And again, maybe find a solution, find a compromise. So I hope that happens in the next 2 weeks.
Well, I know Phyllis says will be open. If anybody comes, if anything, call Phyllis, And then we can, like I say, it's 2 weeks to vote on it.
Well, can I ask you a question? I know Phyllis is open. Are you open?
I'm always open.
All right. I just want to
You ought
make
to
sure.
know, I've been here 12 years, and I'm always open. My door's always open.
Well, and then I still say if we have ideas, we can give it to Bruce or Phyllis. And
We'll sure look at it.
Okay.
I'll sure look at anything, any proposal. And like I say, I've been here 12 years, and we've always had to come back at one part of time and do a amendment to the budget, and we always lowball the sales tax. And this time, me and Phyllis, we've just about lowballed everything. And we know when we come in, we're going to have more money than we got, but it's conservative. We know we're going to have what we got. And if more revenue coming in, what I hope to with the, I'm hoping this year will be a big year in development, residential, and we got a lot of builders that's ready to bust loose, and we get this revenue in there, and we can get a lot of more things that everybody wants. But you know, it was 2011, we doubled taxes, and the employees didn't get no, no raises. You know, it just, you know, each year's different, you know, and priorities changes, and I think we got a good solid budget, and you know, it can always be tweaked to make better. Sure, I think we heard from everybody but you.
Well, I'm just listening to all of you. Go back and forth, and we all know what we have and what we can do, which is not a lot, but we can do the best we can with what we have. And as far as on the board, Tom, we don't mind you giving us all of your information at all.
But you know, it's hard. I've been here 12 years, and it's hard because the only time that we can actually talk amongst ourselves is right at this table. We got to go through the city administrator or Phyllis, you know, and it's like taking baby steps, you know. You know, it's you know, and this is the time that we can openly talk and discuss stuff, and if any ideas comes up, then we can still go to Phyllis and say, hey, what about moving this over here and do this? Then Phyllis can relay it to the rest of us, and then when we come back for the meeting, you know, we can discuss it.
We have to give Phyllis a lot of credit.
Yeah, she's worked hard.
She works very hard and does a good job.
I know I pulled all my hair out. And I know since Phyllis has been the finance director, she has worked with everybody, and she'll work equal with everybody. And my door is always open. I can't talk to y'all, but I can do what I can.
Well, I will take you up on that in the next 2 weeks, and whether it goes anywhere, I will relay it to Phyllis and Bruce and see if we can kind of find.
But the next 2 weeks is the time to do it because we're coming down. This is the last, what you call the budget session, but you know, we got 2 weeks, and I found out the last 3 weeks, Phyllis can do miracles.
Bless her heart.
Anything else?
I'm good.
Nothing.
Call it over. We'll call it adjourned.